Some men, when pushed past the brink, pour themselves a stiff drink and retreat to the quiet sanctuary of their beds. I, on the other hand, found my limit in a more desolate place, an airport bathroom at midnight, calling an attorney. But we'll get to that. Tuesday, March 4th. Knoxville, Tennessee. 11:47 p.m. I was deep in the warm embrace of my worn recliner, the television a soft flickering sentinel in the dim room, watching me more than I was watching it. That's what happens when you hit 76, I suppose, a silent badge of honor earned through decades of hard work and the right to doze off wherever comfort calls. The volume was barely a murmur. On screen, some home renovation show played out its petty drama, a couple locked in a heated debate over kitchen countertops, as if the fate of the nation hung on their tile choices. My kind of Tuesday, ordinarily. Then, a low vibration disturbed the peace, a familiar hum from the side table. My phone. I squinted, the lines around my eyes deepening, at the glowing screen. Asterisk. Mrs. Lucy. Asterisk. Now, listen closely. Mrs. Lucy Coleman is a creature of habit, as reliable as the sunrise. She simply does not call past 8:00 p.m. ever. She's 81 years old, a woman who goes to bed with the chickens and rises with the dew. The last time her name had illuminated my phone screen after dark was when a particularly audacious raccoon had made a brazen assault on her garbage can, and she'd needed nothing more than a dose of moral support. So, when her name shone bright and urgent at 11:47 on a Tuesday night in March, every single hair on the back of my neck stood straight up, a primal alarm blaring through my slumber. I answered on the second ring, my voice rough with sleep and a sudden, sharp premonition. Lucy? Noah? Her voice was barely there, a strained whisper, cautious and hushed. It was the way people speak in hospital hallways, trying not to disturb the silent grief that hangs in the air, trying not to break the fragile calm. I'm sorry to call so late. I wouldn't if it wasn't. I just didn't know what else to do. I bolted upright, every last vestige of sleep instantly, completely gone. A cold knot tightened in my gut. What happened? She exhaled, a slow, shuddering sound that spoke volumes of suppressed panic and days of mounting worry. I've been hearing Ella cry through the wall for 2 nights running, Noah. Not a loud, angry cry, mind you, just a persistent, lonely whimpering. I finally knocked this afternoon. She opened the door by herself, Noah. Just Ella, in her pajamas. At 4:00 in the afternoon, she was sitting on the couch with a bowl of dry cereal and the TV on, and she was completely alone. The world outside my window, the quiet hum of my house, the very air in the room, all went utterly still. A cold dread seeped into my bones. I asked her where her mama was, Lucy continued, her voice gaining a fragile strength, as if the act of relaying the facts was giving her courage. She said her mom and dad went on a trip, said they left 2 days ago, Sunday morning. I asked her if any adult had checked on her, and she said a lady from down the street brought her a sandwich yesterday, but she didn't know her name. My hand tightened around the phone, my knuckles white, the plastic digging into my palm. A lady from down the street. A nameless, faceless gesture, utterly insufficient. She asked me if you knew, Noah. That's the first thing she asked. Does my grandpa know? I was already on my feet, the recliner springing back with a soft thud. The urgency was a jolt of pure adrenaline. I'm on my way. I didn't even have my shoes on before I called Ella. The phone rang once, just once. It was an unnerving silence before that single ring, as if she'd been sitting right next to it in the dark, curled up, waiting for someone. Anyone. Grandpa? Lord. That voice. 8 years old, and already it carried the weary undertone of someone who had learned, far too soon, not to expect too much from the world. Hey, baby, you okay? I think so. 8 years old, and already meticulously hedging her emotions, tempering her truth to protect the comfort of others. My chest cracked clean down the middle, a visceral pain that stole my breath. Ella. Listen to me closely. Is the door locked? Yes, sir. Good girl. Have you eaten today? I had cereal this morning. And Mrs. Lucy brought me a sandwich yesterday. But I saved some for today because I didn't know when she stopped. The last words were rushed, as if she'd said too much, revealed a secret she shouldn't have. She had rationed a single sandwich for 2 days, making it stretch because she had no idea when, or if, anyone was ever coming back for her. The thought sent a fresh wave of ice through me. I grabbed my keys from the hook by the door, the metallic jingle loud in the silent house. Pack a bag, sweetheart. Grandpa's coming right now. You're not spending another night alone. Silence. A profound, echoing silence on the line. Then, so quiet I almost missed it. A tiny, hesitant question. Grandpa, did I do something wrong? Because Michael got to go, and I asked Mommy if I could come, and she said the cruise cost too much and Her voice cracked, a tiny fissure in her carefully constructed composure, and a fresh wave of despair washed over me. My birthday was last month. They got me a backpack. I thought maybe I'd been bad, but I can't remember what I did. I stopped moving, frozen in my hallway in Knoxville, Tennessee, at midnight, with one shoe half on, one shoelace dangling, untied. And I made a decision right then. Not a decision born of raw emotion, though I was brimming with it. Not a reactive one, though every fiber of my being screamed for immediate action. This was a permanent one, an absolute, irrevocable choice that would reshape our lives. Ella, you did nothing wrong. You hear me? Not one single thing. Now pack your rabbit and your favorite shirt and unlock the front door. Grandpa will be there in 4 minutes. Mrs. Lucy was a silhouette perched on the porch steps when my headlights swung into Birchwood Lane, cutting through the heavy darkness. Ella was a small bundle next to her, wrapped tight in a familiar blanket. Her tiny rolling suitcase stood sentinel at her feet, a stuffed rabbit wedged securely under her arm, its floppy ears drooping mournfully. When my headlights finally caught her, she slowly, deliberately, stood up. Then she ran. She didn't utter a single word when she reached me, her small frame a whirlwind of relief and desperation. She just grabbed on, burying her face into my jacket, and held. I picked her up, all 52 pounds of her, a featherweight bundle of vulnerability and trust. I held her tight in the driveway of my son's house, the house he was supposed to be in, the house that had been her prison for days. Over her shoulder, I met Mrs. Lucy's eyes. She was pressing her fingers to her lips, her own battle against tears evident on her face, trying to hold herself together. I called his cell, Lucy whispered, her voice rough. Yesterday morning. No answer. Left a voicemail. Nothing. I finished, the bitter taste of certainty on my tongue. Of course, nothing. I carried Ella to my car, her small weight a profound burden and a precious gift. I buckled her in myself, my old hands surprisingly gentle, and tucked the blanket snugly around her small legs. Before I closed the door, Lucy's hand touched my arm, her touch firm and purposeful. Noah, I know an attorney. She's good, real good, family law. Her name is Catherine Watson. She's got an office downtown on Gay Street. 22 years, and she has never lost a custody case. Not one. I looked at her, the gravity of her words sinking in, transforming the night's frantic rescue into something far more deliberate. Send me her number. Right now, Lucy. She already had her phone out, a testament to her foresight. Ella was asleep before we even hit the end of the street, her soft, even breathing a balm on the raw wounds of my heart. I drove back toward Maple Ridge in silence, the radio off. The only sounds the steady hum of the highway, the gentle whoosh of the car's heater, and Ella's peaceful breaths from the back seat. It was a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. At the intersection of Kingston Pike and North Shore, I hit a red light. An internal voice, tired and bruised, whispered, "Don't do it, Noah. Just go home." But the compulsion was too strong. I did it. I opened Harry's Instagram, and there it was. A glossy, perfect snapshot of betrayal, posted at 8:34 p.m., that very same evening, mere hours before Lucy's call. Harry, Renee, Michael, all three of them, standing on the sun-drenched deck of a cruise ship somewhere off the shimmering coast of Florida. The golden hour light poured over everything, an almost divine glow, as if God himself had agreed to be their personal photographer, blessing their oblivious joy. Renee in a white sundress, her face beaming. Michael, Harry's biological son, holding a virgin cocktail, adorned with a tiny umbrella, looking utterly content. And Harry, my son, my blood. The boy I had coached in Little League, whose scraped knees I had bandaged, whom I had driven to college, whose wedding I had cried at, overwhelmed with pride and hope. Harry had his arm slung casually around his wife, and he was grinning. Grinning like a man without a single worry, without a single thing on his conscience. The caption read, asterisk, family time. So grateful for these two. Asterisk, asterisk. These two asterisk. Not three, just times two asterisk. The light turned green. I didn't move. The car behind me honked, a short, impatient blast. I still didn't move. I just sat there, at that intersection, the digital image burned into my mind, staring at those two words. Asterisk. These two asterisk. The car behind me honked again. Longer this time, a sustained wail of annoyance. Yeah. Me too, buddy. Me too. I got Ella home, gently settling her into the guest room with her stuffed rabbit, an extra blanket, and a glass of water on the nightstand. I sat on the edge of the bed until her breathing grew slow and even, her small face finally relaxed in sleep. Then, I went to the kitchen table. I opened my laptop. Its cold metal, a stark contrast to the warmth of Ella's room. I made a pot of coffee I didn't need, the rich aroma filling the quiet house, a solitary ritual for the long night ahead. And I started writing everything down. Every date, every minute detail, every heartbreaking word Ella had said. Verbatim, Lucy's eyewitness account, the time-stamped Instagram post, the voicemail Harry never returned. This wasn't anger that fueled my pen. This was evidence. This was a declaration of war. At 2:11 a.m., exactly, my phone buzzed with quiet urgency. Lucy had sent the contact card. Catherine Watson, Watson and Associates Family Law, Gay Street, downtown Knoxville. 22 years experience. I saved it immediately, the name a beacon in the storm. Then, without a moment's hesitation, I opened a new browser tab and started looking at flights to Miami. Because here's the thing about being a grandfather in Knoxville, Tennessee, who just picked up his 8-year-old granddaughter from an empty house on Birchwood Lane, where she'd been rationing a sandwich and eating dry cereal alone for 2 days, all while her parents celebrated themselves on a cruise. You don't get mad. Not in the way they expect, anyway. You get organized. By 3 a.m., I had 2 round-trip tickets to Miami booked. A luxurious suite at the Key Biscayne Island Resort was confirmed, and a 9 a.m. appointment request, stark and to the point, had been sent to Catherine Watson's office email. It read simply, asterisk. My name is Noah Fletcher. Asterisk. Asterisk. My granddaughter was left home alone for 2 days while her parents took a cruise with their biological son. I need to know every legal option available to me. Asterisk. Asterisk. I'll be in your office the moment I'm back in Knoxville. Asterisk. Noah? Then I called Harry. It was 3:17 a.m. I knew he wouldn't answer. He was probably deep in the sleep of the truly unburdened, or perhaps just too drunk to hear it. More importantly, I didn't want him to answer. I wanted him to wake up the next morning, in his opulent cruise ship cabin, roll over, reach for his phone, and find a voicemail from his father waiting for him like a loaded envelope. The tone beeped, signaling the recording. Hey son. My voice was calm. Warm even. Almost cheerful. A deceptive calm that I hoped would unsettle him more than any shout. Just wanted to let you know I've got Ella. We're going on a little trip ourselves. Hope the cruise is everything you wanted it to be. I paused, just long enough for the words to sink in, to allow the pleasant tone to truly curdle. "We'll talk when you get back." I hung up, the click of the phone, a final, ominous punctuation mark. I walked down the hall, the quiet creak of the floorboards the only sound, and checked on Ella one more time. She was curled up tightly with her rabbit, a tiny, peaceful figure. Her face was finally, blessedly relaxed. No tension furrowed her little forehead. No fear shadowed her eyes. She looked like what she was, what she should always be. A child. Just a child. I went back to the kitchen and sat in the profound quiet of my house in Maple Ridge, Knoxville, Tennessee. I drank my unnecessary coffee, the bitterness a suitable companion, and contemplated what the next 2 weeks were going to look like for my son, Harry Fletcher. I had concrete evidence. I had a formidable attorney. I had 2 plane tickets to Miami, booked and ready, and Harry had absolutely no idea. For a fleeting moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. They say the best revenge is living well. I say the best revenge is living well while your attorney is quietly, meticulously building a case that will make your enemy's knees buckle. But we'll get to that. Wednesday, March 5th. Knoxville, Tennessee. 6:14 a.m. I was on my second cup of coffee, staring out at the early morning light, when Ella padded into the kitchen. Her socked feet made no sound on the hardwood floor. Her hair was a delightful tangle in every direction, and her rabbit was tucked securely under her arm. She paused at the kitchen doorway, looking like a small, confused owl, blinking slowly as she processed the unusual scene. "Grandpa, why are you already dressed?" I offered her a smile that felt genuinely warm, the first one in 12 hours. "Because we've got a plane to catch, Ladybug." She blinked again, her owl-like gaze still fixed on me. "Upland, Miami, Florida." The owl blinked a third time, processing. Then, slowly, carefully, as if she were afraid to want it too much, as if the dream might shatter if she reached for it too quickly, the corners of her mouth began to twitch upwards. "Are you serious? Do I look like a man who jokes about Florida?" She looked at me for one full, scrutinizing second, weighing my expression, searching for any hint of teasing. Then, with a sudden, unrestrained burst of joy that echoed through the quiet house, she screamed. Not a cry of distress, but a pure, unadulterated shriek of delight. She spun on her heel and ran back down the hallway, her small feet thundering, to get ready. And I sat at my kitchen table in Maple Ridge, Knoxville, Tennessee, and smiled into my coffee cup for the first time in 12 hours. That sound, that one sound right there, that raw, unboundaried joy, that's what this whole thing was for. Thursday, March 6th, Key Biscayne Island Resort, Miami, Florida, 10:22 a.m. I want you to understand something about this resort. I am a 76-year-old man from Knoxville who drives a Ford F-150, wears sensible shoes, and considers Cracker Barrel a fine dining establishment. I do not do luxury. I do not do bellhops who fuss over my bags, or turn down service that leaves chocolates on my pillow, or menus that don't have prices on them, because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. But I booked the Ocean Suite anyway, because this wasn't for me. And when that impeccably uniformed bellhop opened the door to our room, and the floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the entire Atlantic Ocean sparkling, an endless sapphire expanse in the morning light, like God himself had just Windexed it, I decided that maybe, just maybe, turn-down service wasn't so bad after all. Ella walked in behind me, her small hand still clutching her rabbit. She stopped dead, utterly still, both hands at her sides, her eyes wide with unadulterated awe. She stood there for 10 full seconds, just staring, absorbing the impossible beauty. "Grandpa," her voice was barely above a whisper, laced with wonder. "Are we rich?" I laughed so hard I had to set my bag down with a thud. "We are for the next 5 days, baby. Go on. Can I touch the window?" "You can lick the window if you want," I told her, my voice thick with emotion. "We're paying enough for it." She giggled, a bright, surprised sound that bounced off the marble floors and danced in the sea-kissed air. Then, with both hands outstretched, she ran straight for the glass, her face alight. Right there. That giggle. That's the one that almost broke me. Because it hit me all at once, with the force of a crashing wave. I hadn't heard that sound in months, maybe even longer, and I hadn't even noticed it was gone until it came back, filling the aching void I hadn't realized was there. The next 4 days were something I will carry with me until they put me in the ground. They were a gift, a promise, a re-education in pure, unadulterated joy. Asterisk, asterisk. Day 1. Asterisk, asterisk. The resort water park. Ella, usually so reserved, transformed into a fearless adventurer. She went down the main slide a staggering 11 times. 11. I counted, leaning against a palm tree, my heart swelling with every splash. By the 7th time, the teenage lifeguard at the top was giving her a fist bump, recognizing her as a kindred spirit in the pursuit of thrills. By the 11th time, she had garnered a whole cheering section of strangers at the bottom, hollering for her like she was competing for an Olympic medal. She kind of was. She was competing for her childhood back, and she was winning. Asterisk, asterisk. Day 2. Asterisk, asterisk, horseback, riding on the beach at sunrise. The guide, a quiet man named Ray, with sun-weathered skin and a gentle smile, put Ella on a sweet-tempered brown mare named Biscuit. He led them along the shoreline, the soft thud of hooves mingling with the sigh of the ocean, while the sky above the water bled from soft rose to molten gold. Ella sat up straight on that horse, her small frame poised and regal, as if she'd been born to it. She kept looking down at the wet sand, then out at the endless expanse of the ocean, then back at me, walking alongside with my phone out, capturing every moment. "Grandpa, take a picture." I took about 40, maybe more. Later, I carefully selected one and posted it on Facebook. Ella on Biscuit, the shimmering ocean behind her, the biggest, most genuine smile I'd seen on that face in God knows how long. The caption read, asterisk, my granddaughter on her first horse. She has never looked more at home. Asterisk. I knew Harry would see it. I posted it anyway. Call it information. Call it a preview of coming attractions. Call it a grandfather who was done being quiet, done being accommodating, done being ignored. Asterisk, asterisk, day 3. Asterisk, asterisk. The cooking class with Antonio. Now, Antonio Caruso was a 58-year-old chef from Naples, Italy, a man who had somehow, inexplicably, ended up running a resort kitchen in Miami, Florida. And absolutely nobody was complaining. The man had forearms like a longshoreman, thick and powerful from years of kneading dough, and an accent so rich and profound you practically needed subtitles to follow his rapid-fire Italian English. He called everyone my friend, guests, staff, even the seagulls circling overhead. Ella walked into that bustling kitchen, and Antonio, with a dramatic flourish, looked at her and spread his arms wide, as if she were a long-lost relative arriving from across the ocean, a prodigal granddaughter returning home. "Ah, my smallest student, come. Could today we make pasta from scratch, yes? You ready to work?" Ella looked at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and a tiny flicker of nervousness. I nodded, a silent encouragement. She looked back at Antonio, squared her little shoulders, and with the solemn determination of a CEO about to walk into a boardroom, declared, "I'm ready." What followed was the most flour I have ever seen outside of a professional bakery. It was everywhere. On Ella's small nose, dusting her hair. On Antonio's apron, clinging to his impressive mustache. Somehow, even on me, and I was merely standing in the doorway, watching the beautiful, flour-dusted chaos unfold. Antonio talked the entire time, his voice, a melodic stream, about Naples, about his mother's tiny, bustling kitchen, about how pasta is just flour and eggs and love, my friend. That's all. That's everything. Ella listened to every single word with total concentration, her tongue slightly out, her small hands working the dough with an intense focus, as if she'd done it before in another life. At the end, Antonio tasted her pasta, closing his eyes with the exaggerated drama of a man accepting an Oscar. She's a natural, a genuine natural. You, he said, pointing a flower-covered finger directly at me. You bring her back next year, yes? I make her a chef. Ella beamed, a smile so wide and radiant, I honestly thought her face might actually crack open from the sheer joy. I took a photo of that too, flower on her nose, grinning like she'd just conquered something magnificent. Because she had. She had conquered fear, self-doubt, and the quiet despair of being overlooked. But here's the part nobody saw. Every night, every single night, after Ella finally fell asleep, exhausted and happy from her days of discovery, I took my phone out to the balcony. I closed the sliding door quietly behind me, the ocean breeze a cool caress against my skin, and settled into the comfortable chair overlooking the vast, dark Atlantic. And I called Catherine Watson, 9 p.m., sharp, every time. Catherine Watson did not do small talk. In 22 years of family law, she had apparently used up her entire small talk allocation somewhere around 2008, and had absolutely none remaining, which, I realized, suited me perfectly. Night 1. Tell me everything. From the beginning. Don't editorialize. Just facts and dates. I talked for 40 minutes straight, recounting every detail, every memory, every painful observation, the ocean wind carrying my story out to sea. She interrupted exactly twice, both times to nail down specific timestamps, her precision unnerving. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Not the quiet of someone stalling, but the deep, resonant silence of someone thinking, building a case in her formidable mind. Okay. Here's where we stand, she finally said, her voice clear and authoritative. What they did has a legal definition, Noah. Leaving an 8-year-old child without adequate adult supervision for more than 24 hours in Tennessee meets the threshold for supervisory neglect under state child welfare statutes. I gripped the balcony railing, the cool metal biting into my palm. The words, clinical and stark, gave legal weight to the raw injustice I felt. You're certain? I've filed successful cases on considerably less, Noah. Here's what we have. Your neighbor's eyewitness account. That's gold, Noah. Direct, first-hand, documentable. We have the child's own statements. I'll need those properly recorded. We have the Instagram post. Time-stamped during the neglect period. Undeniable proof of their absence. And we have your voicemail, establishing you as the responsible party who stepped in when her parents didn't. She paused, allowing the gravity of her words to settle. I also need school records, behavioral changes, attendance, teacher notes, anything flagged in the past 2 years. I'll have them requested and delivered to my office by Friday. Good. When you're back in Knoxville, I'll have the initial framework ready. We're pursuing 3 things simultaneously. Grandparent visitation rights that are legally enforceable and court-ordered. A formal report to Child Protective Services, mandatory given the circumstances, and a motion for psychological evaluation of the home environment as it pertains to Ella's welfare. I exhaled slowly, a long, ragged breath into the warm Miami night air, the full scope of her strategy crystallizing. Will Ella have to testify? I asked, the thought a fresh wave of protective urgency. Catherine's voice didn't shift even slightly, remaining as steady and unwavering as the tide. Not if I do my job correctly. And I always do my job correctly. I believed her, completely, and without reservation. Night 2. Catherine walked me through the intricate financial dimensions of the impending legal battle. She spoke of trust restructuring, college funds, and will revisions with the calm, matter-of-fact certainty that some people discuss the weather. Irrevocable trusts were simply an inevitable force, already decided, beyond appeal. Once it's filed, it cannot be undone, she stated, the finality chilling. Not by Harry, not by Renee, not by any attorney they hire. Are you certain? I asked, needing to hear it, needing to feel the unshakable foundation of her certainty. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, Catherine. Then I'll have the documents drafted before you land. Night 3. Asterisk, asterisk. That's when everything shifted in a way I wasn't prepared for. I was on the balcony, relaying more details to Catherine from the school records I'd had Ella's teacher email me. 2 years of notes, a documented behavioral decline, a flag from the school counselor 6 months ago that Harry and Renee had apparently received, acknowledged, and then, with breathtaking callousness, ignored entirely. The evidence was damning. That's when I heard the soft slide of the door behind me. Ella, standing in the doorway in her pajamas, her rabbit dangling from one hand, squinting at me with sleepy, yet surprisingly suspicious eyes. "Grandpa, who are you talking to?" I quickly covered the phone. "Just a work call. Ladybug. Go back to bed. It's nighttime. Important work call." She considered this with the full, unwavering gravity of a federal judge, reviewing a complex case, her brow furrowed in concentration. Then, "Can I have water?" A wave of exasperated affection washed over me. "There's a bottle on the nightstand, sweetheart. Can I have the fancy water from the little fridge?" I paused, pressing the phone harder to my ear to ensure Catherine couldn't fully hear my incredulous internal monologue. Asterisk. "I'm on the phone with an attorney building a legal case against your parents, and you are out here negotiating minibar water at 9 o'clock at night?" Asterisk. "Yes. 1 bottle, then bed." She disappeared without further argument, her mission accomplished. I went back to Catherine. "Sorry about that. 8-year-old interruption." "I heard," Catherine said, "and I will go to my grave swearing I detected the faintest trace of warmth, a subtle human flicker, somewhere beneath that precise, professional voice. She sounds like she's doing considerably better." "She really is, Catherine. She truly is. Good. Hold on to that. The contrast between her documented behavioral decline at home and her current emotional state in your care, that distinction is going to matter significantly in front of a judge." I wrote that down, word for word, the legal weight of her observations sinking deep. But it was night 4 that I genuinely was not prepared for. We were at the resort's main restaurant, a place of hushed elegance with white tablecloths, flickering candles, and the kind of impeccable service where the breadbasket arrives before you've even fully sat down. Ella was eating shrimp for the very first time, making a different, highly expressive face with every single one. She conducted a full, running commentary on each shrimp individually, its texture, its taste, its overall shrimpness, ultimately and ceremoniously, declaring that she loved them. I was watching her, a quiet contentment blooming in my chest, thinking, asterisk, this is exactly what she looks like when nobody is making her feel small. This is who she truly is, asterisk. Then, suddenly, she put her fork down. The lively chatter ceased. She went completely quiet, her gaze fixed intently on the intricate pattern of the tablecloth for a moment, as if searching for answers there. Then, slowly, she looked up at me, those enormous, liquid brown eyes, usually alight with curiosity, now clouded with a deep, unsettling question. "Grandpa, am I adopted because something is wrong with me?" The restaurant kept moving all around us. Glasses clinked somewhere behind me. A couple laughed, loud and unburdened, at the bar. A waiter rattled off specials at the next table, his voice a cheerful murmur. But right there, at that white-draped table, everything stopped. The world outside our small circle simply ceased to exist. I set my fork down slowly, deliberately, the sound barely audible. I reached across that pristine white tablecloth, took both her small hands in mine, and I told her the truth, all of it. Every piece of it, carefully calibrated to be age-appropriate, delivered with unwavering gentleness, but completely, utterly honest. I told her what adoption means, a beautiful choice, and what it absolutely does not times mean. I told her that being chosen is not a consolation prize for a child who wasn't wanted elsewhere. It is the whole race, the ultimate victory, a testament to her inherent worth. I told her that her birth mother was young and scared, and that what she did in that impossible moment was an act of profound love, not abandonment. I told her, with every ounce of conviction in my being, that I would have driven through the night, flown across the entire country, and turned over every single legal stone in the state of Tennessee before I let anyone, ever again, make her feel like a leftover. Her eyes got shiny, a film of unshed tears. She nodded slowly, processing every word with that serious, careful face she gets when deep in thought. She understood. Then, after a long moment, she looked down at my breadbasket, a small, tentative smile playing on her lips. "Can I have some of your bread?" "You can have all of it, baby." "And dessert?" "Order two." She smiled, small at first, then bigger, then the real one, the one that starts slow and deep, welling up from somewhere profound, and then reaches all the way up to her eyes, and just stays there, radiating pure, unadulterated joy. I excused myself to the restroom after dessert, needing a moment alone. I stood at the sink, running cold water over my wrists, and stared at myself in the mirror for a long moment, because I had held it together at that table for her. I had been steady and warm and certain, a granite pillar of reassurance, because that was exactly what she needed in that heartbreaking moment. But I am only human, and somewhere out there on the vast, indifferent Atlantic Ocean, on a cruise ship full of champagne sunsets and carefully curated Instagram captions, my son Harry Fletcher was sleeping just fine. He was oblivious. That thought, that specific, chilling thought, was the one that made me dry my hands, straighten my collar, and walk back out to that restaurant. I sat down across from my granddaughter, whose smile still shimmered like a precious jewel, and made a decision that had been quietly building, accumulating weight and inevitability, since the very moment I picked up Mrs. Lucy's phone call. No more waiting, no more patience, no more giving Harry the benefit of any doubt, any excuse, any quarter. We were going home to Knoxville, and Catherine Watson had work to do. Some people need a courtroom to find justice. I was about to give Harry one. Some people need a conversation. Harry Fletcher, however, needed both the harsh reality of a courtroom and the painful intimacy of an honest discussion. I made certain he received them. Sunday, March 16th, Knoxville, Tennessee, 4:47 p.m. Ella finally succumbed to exhaustion on the plane ride home. Her small head rested heavily on my shoulder, a rumpled stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest, and a half-eaten bag of pretzels still wedged in her hand. A poignant testament to a snack abruptly abandoned, a world momentarily shut out. She had simply checked out, completely, utterly spent. The flight attendant, her smile gentle and understanding, paused by our row as she began collecting trash. I lifted a hand, a silent plea. "Don't wake her, please." She nodded, her movements softening, and continued down the aisle with barely a whisper. I remained there, suspended at 30,000 feet, my granddaughter a fragile weight against me, and allowed my mind to drift to the confrontation awaiting us in Knoxville. There was no dread, not anymore. Only a quiet, resolute certainty, the kind that settles deep within a man who has meticulously planned every move, meticulously anticipated every single version of the battle ahead. I was prepared. Harry and Renee had landed 2 days prior. I knew this because, after what felt like an eternity, Harry had finally responded to the raw, furious voicemail I'd left him at 3 a.m, not a callback, not even a fully formed sentence. Just 6 stark words via text message, devoid of punctuation, stripped of any explanation. Asterisk, "We need to talk. Coming home Sunday." Asterisk. I read it twice. The words flat and cold on the screen, feeling neither relief nor satisfaction, only a tightening of my resolve. Then, without a moment's hesitation, I forwarded it to Catherine Watson, adding a single, concise instruction. "Monday morning, my house. Be there at 9. Her reply landed in my inbox in under 4 minutes. Already cleared my calendar. And then, a second text. "I'll bring everything." Monday, March 17th, Maple Ridge, Knoxville, Tennessee, 8:59 a.m. Catherine Watson arrived precisely 1 minute early. I would later learn this was the latest she ever arrived anywhere. She was impeccably dressed in a charcoal blazer, low, sensible heels, and carried a worn leather briefcase that clearly predated my dining room, a silent veteran of countless serious rooms. She walked in with an air of quiet efficiency, set her files neatly on my dining room table, accepted a cup of coffee with a polite but no-fuss nod, and settled into a chair as if she had occupied that very spot for her entire distinguished career. My admiration for her deepened with every encounter. "They don't know I'm here?" she asked, her gaze still fixed on the open folder in her hands. "They think it's a family conversation." The faintest, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips, a brief ghost of amusement. She cleared her throat, a soft, professional sound. "It is," she agreed. "Just a very well-documented one." At 9:03 a.m., I heard the crunch of Harry's car tires on the gravel of the driveway. A knot tightened in my gut, a familiar mix of familial affection and cold disappointment. Asterisk. Here we go. Asterisk. The front door opened, then Harry stepped in first. My son, 38 years old, his skin bronzed from 10 days on a cruise ship, yet the tan couldn't quite mask the profound exhaustion etched beneath. It was the deep kind of weariness, the sort that sleep doesn't fix because it doesn't stem from physical exertion. It comes from a deeper, internal place, a place rest can never truly reach. Renee followed close behind him, her chin held high, shoulders squared, jaw rigidly set. The woman had clearly spent the drive over constructing her formidable argument, arriving fully armored and ready to deploy every verbal weapon at her disposal. Harry opened his mouth, presumably to speak, then his eyes landed on Catherine. He froze mid-step, as if an invisible hand had abruptly cut his power. "Dad," he began, his voice laced with confusion. "Who?" "Harry. Renee." "This is Catherine Watson," I said, my voice deliberately pleasant, even a stark contrast to the coiled tension in the room. "Family law attorney, 22 years experience, office on Gay Street downtown. Please sit down. There's coffee." Renee's eyes, sharp and assessing, darted from Catherine to me, then to the ominous open folder on the table, and finally back to Catherine. Something subtle but profound shifted behind them, not fear yet, but a frantic recalculation. "Noah," she began, her voice carefully controlled, a thin veneer of civility stretched over underlying fury. "We came here for a family conversation, not a, this isn't—" "Please sit down, Mrs. Fletcher," Catherine interjected, her voice perfectly even, perfectly unyielding. Just those 4 words, delivered with a quiet authority that brooked no argument. "Renee satt," not because she wished to, but because something in Catherine's tone made any alternative feel significantly, terrifyingly worse. I understood completely. I had experienced that exact same tone on the phone from Miami. Harry sank into the chair beside her, his hands flat on the table, his gaze still avoiding mine. He knew. He had known from the moment he listened to my voicemail on that cruise ship. He had been carrying the weight of his guilt across 2 states and 10 days of ocean air, and now it sat, heavy and undeniable, right there on his face for anyone with eyes to see. Catherine opened her folder with neither theater nor ceremony. There was no dramatic pause, no elaborate build-up. She simply slid a single typed sheet of paper across the polished surface of the table, as casually as one might pass the salt. A timeline. Clean, precise, and utterly merciless. Asterisk Sunday, March 2nd. Harry and Renee Fletcher depart Knoxville, Tennessee with minor child Michael Fletcher for Port of Miami. Minor child Ella Fletcher, age 8, remains at family residence on Birchwood Lane without adult supervision. Asterisk. Asterisk. March 2nd through March 4th. Ella Fletcher observed alone at residence by neighbor Lucy Coleman. Child reported surviving on dry cereal and a single sandwich over the 2-day period. No confirmed adult supervision during this time. Asterisk. Asterisk Tuesday, March 4th, 11:47 p.m. Lucy Coleman contacts Noah Fletcher. Asterisk. Asterisk. Tuesday, March 4th, 11:59 p.m. Noah Fletcher retrieves Ella Fletcher from residence. Asterisk. Harry read it, his face a mask of stone, not a single muscle twitching. Renee read it, and her face moved considerably, a flicker of panic darting in her eyes. "This is completely," she sputtered, indignation warring with growing alarm. "You can't just—" "We made arrangements." Mrs. Fletcher, Catherine's voice remained perfectly pleasant, perfectly immovable, like a mountain carved from granite. "I'm going to save everyone some time. What is documented on that page has a specific legal definition under Tennessee's state statute. Leaving a minor child under the age of 10 without adequate adult supervision meets the threshold for supervisory neglect. We are not here this morning to debate whether times it occurred. It occurred. Mrs. Lucy Coleman has provided a signed written statement. We have time-stamped social media documentation. We have the child's own account, recorded and notarized." She slid a second sheet across the table, the rustle of paper loud in the suddenly silent room. "We are here to discuss what happens next." Renee opened her mouth again, a fresh protest forming, but Harry's hand clamped down firmly on her arm. She stopped, her mouth snapping shut with an audible click. I noted that, filed it away. It was the first decisive thing my son had done in this entire sorry situation. 2 weeks late, but noted nonetheless. Catherine laid out the options, with the chilling precision of a surgeon preparing for a complex operation. Clean, precise, no wasted motion. 3 simultaneous legal actions, each meticulously drafted and poised for filing. First, *** grandparent visitation rights. *** legally enforceable, court-ordered, and non-negotiable in scope. Second, *** formal report to Child Protective Services. *** thoroughly documented, exhaustively detailed, and supported by 2 years of Ella's school behavioral records, including a counselor's flag from 6 months prior that Harry and Renee had received, acknowledged in writing, and then completely, utterly ignored. Third, a *** motion for a full psychological evaluation of the home environment, *** as it directly related to Ella's emotional welfare, bolstered by documented behavioral decline, damning teacher testimony, and the stark, heartbreaking contrast between Ella's current emotional state and her state prior to Noah's intervention. With every item Catherine placed on the table, Renee's color drained. She began with a controlled, defensive pink, but quickly shifted to a very specific shade of pale that I recognized instantly. The color of someone doing rapid internal mathematics, frantically calculating the odds, and not finding a single answer that worked in their favor. Harry remained utterly motionless, utterly silent, his gaze fixed on the timeline, as if it were the wreckage of a car accident he himself had caused. Catherine folded her hands, her expression calm, her voice measured. "The CPS report has been fully drafted. It has not yet been filed. That remains a choice for the next 72 hours. Silence descended. A palpable presence, the kind with actual physical weight. And then, Harry Fletcher, my son, slowly lifted his head from that damning piece of paper and looked directly at me for the first time since he'd walked through my front door. His eyes were red-rimmed, haunted. Dad, just that one word, just my name. Yet it carried the full, crushing weight of everything he hadn't said for 2 weeks, a confession, an apology, and a question, all compressed into a single, aching syllable. I waited. I gave him nothing. Not a flicker of empathy, not a softening of my gaze. I let him carry the unbearable weight the rest of the way himself. I knew it was wrong, he confessed, his voice rough and uneven, cracking under the strain. I knew the whole entire time. Renee said it was just this one trip, that we'd make it up to Ella when we got home. And I told myself that was true because it was easier then. He stopped, unable to finish the thought. His jaw worked, a muscle twitching. I packed my bag, and I walked past her bedroom, and she was sitting on her bed looking at me, and I kept walking, Dad. I kept walking, and I closed the front door. And I got in the car. His voice broke completely on the last word, the confession finally tearing through him. Renee turned to look at him sharply, a flash of betrayal in her eyes. But he didn't look back at her. His gaze remained fixed on me, red and exhausted, utterly exposed, utterly without defense. The room was so quiet I could hear the rhythmic tick-tock of the kitchen clock. I looked at my son for a long, agonizing moment. The boy who used to fall asleep on my shoulder on long Sunday drives, his small hand tucked into mine. The boy I taught to throw a baseball in the backyard on Maple Ridge, his laugh echoing through the summer air. The boy I dropped off at college and cried for the entire silent drive home. And now, the man sitting across from me, who had packed a suitcase, walked past his daughter's bedroom door and kept going. I wanted to be furious. And I was furious. A white-hot rage that simmered just beneath my skin. But underneath that fury, deeper than it, older than it, was something else entirely. Grief. Pure, clean grief. Grief for the father I believed I had raised, and for the man sitting in front of me who, somewhere along the way, had become someone I no longer fully recognized. I allowed myself to feel it, raw and unadulterated, for exactly 3 seconds. Then, I opened my own folder. "I know you knew, Harry," I said quietly, my voice devoid of emotion. "That's the part that kept me up at night." He flinched, as if the words themselves were physical blows. Good. I slid my folder across the table. Harry picked it up, his movements slow and deliberate, reading the first page with painstaking care. He set it down with both hands, as though it were made of something impossibly fragile. Renee, however, snatched it, her eyes scanning the page faster, more aggressively. She set it down harder, a sharp slap against the wood. It was my updated will. Reviewed, revised, and formally notarized by Catherine's firm the week prior, while Ella was eating shrimp and negotiating for minibar water in Miami. A significant portion of my estate, the Maple Ridge house, the investment accounts, the land my own father left me on the edge of Knoxville that had been in this family for 40 years now, sat in an irrevocable trust, established solely and permanently for Ella Fletcher, to be released in full on her 18th birthday, managed by an independent trustee, and overseen entirely by Watson and Associates. Irrevocable. Meaning done. Meaning permanent. Meaning sealed. Meaning no attorney Harry or Renee could ever hire, no matter how expensive, no matter how aggressive, was ever going to touch it. Additionally, a college fund in Ella's name, already established, already funded, already earning interest while we sat in that silent, tension-filled room. Renee stared at the document in front of her, her face a mask of disbelief. Then, slowly, she looked up at me, and for the first time all morning, for the first time since she had walked through my front door with her chin up and her armor on, that armor was completely gone. What was underneath it wasn't anger, it was fear. Genuine fear. The specific, soul-crushing kind that arrives when a person one has utterly underestimated has, in fact, already outmaneuvered them at every single turn, while they weren't even paying attention. "Noah," she started, her voice a thin whisper. "You chose who mattered to you," I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't lean forward. I just said it, flat and final, the way you state something that has already been irrevocably decided. So did I. Nobody spoke. Good. Catherine then laid out the resolution terms. 4 conditions. Clear, specific, legally binding, and entirely non-negotiable. 1. Ella begins weekly sessions with a licensed child therapist within 30 days. All costs covered by the trust. 2. Noah receives legally enforceable visitation rights, effective immediately. Every other weekend. 2 full weeks every summer. Major holidays to be discussed and agreed upon in writing. 3. Harry and Renee complete a minimum of 4 sessions of family counseling, together and individually. Documentation of attendance required. 4. The CPS report sits sealed in Catherine's files for 1 full calendar year. Any times violation of times, Anytime single condition, one missed counseling session, one incident, and it gets filed that same day. No phone call first. No second chance. Filed. Catherine closed her briefcase with a soft, deliberate click, the sound resonating through the hushed room. "These are not suggestions," she said pleasantly, her voice still perfectly even. "They are terms." Renee looked at Harry. A whole silent conversation unfolding between them in approximately 4 seconds. A desperate, pleading question from her. A defeated, weary acknowledgement from him. Then she looked back at the table and gave one single, tight nod. It was like it cost her something she wasn't getting back. It did. Asterisk. Good. Asterisk. They signed at 10:34 a.m. Harry stood to leave, pausing at the dining room doorway, his back to me, one hand resting on the frame. His voice caught slightly, rough with emotion. "Is Ella okay?" I let the question hang in the air for a moment, long enough for him to truly feel the weight of it, the desperation behind it. "She will be," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "No thanks to you. But she will be." He nodded once, slowly, at the doorframe, still not turning around. Then he walked out. Renee followed immediately, without a word or a backward glance. The front door clicked shut behind them, sealing the finality of the morning. 6 months later, September, Knoxville, Tennessee. Ella calls me every Sunday at 6:00 p.m. She hasn't missed a single one. Last Sunday, she talked for 47 minutes without pausing for air. She talked about school, about her therapist, Evelyn, who she describes as always smelling like a bakery, which is weird, but I actually really like it. She talked about the pasta she made Harry for his birthday, using Antonio's recipe, about how Michael let her pick the movie on Friday night, and she picked something he visibly hated, and she felt a little bit bad, but also, honestly, not really. That last part, she absolutely got from me. I am choosing to be proud of it. Harry shows up to every school event now. 3rd row. Every single time. He claps the loudest, not making a production of it, no big announcements, no performative gestures. He just shows up, and he stays the whole time. It is not redemption, not yet, but it is the road to it. And I know the profound difference between a man performing change and a man actually attempting it. Harry is attempting it. Renee is harder. Renee is civil and present, and she tries, in some weeks, genuinely, some weeks. That has to be enough. The counselor told Harry, and Harry told me during one of our own conversations that have slowly, carefully resumed, that Renee had built her entire sense of family around Michael, and that Ella had always represented something she didn't know how to absorb. I'm not a therapist. I'm not even going to pretend I fully understand it. They spent $20,000 to make her feel invisible. I spent more to make sure she never forgets she was always worth seeing. And that, right there, is the whole story. If you enjoyed this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. And as always, thank you for being a part of Dad's Raw Revenge. I will see you on the next one.